What if a caveman time traveled into the modern world? Picture this: a man who has lived his entire life about 30,000 years ago. A man who only knows how to hunt, spark fire with stone, and sleep in a cave, suddenly opens his eyes and finds himself standing in the middle of a supermarket. Fluorescent lights that never flicker off. Music playing out of thin air with no musician in sight. And right in front of him, a set of doors that slide open the moment he steps close, as if the building somehow knew he was coming. What do you think he does first? Scream and run? Drop to his knees? Or maybe grab a banana and try to use it like a knife? The real answer is funnier, and far more revealing than you'd expect, because this isn't just a fun thought experiment. It actually exposes some wild truths about our own brains today, and by the end of this you might realize something uncomfortable. If the roles were reversed, you'd probably be the one in real trouble. Grab your animal hides. Let's go. Most of us assume the thing that would shock a caveman the most is a smartphone, a car, or an airplane. But according to anthropologists who study sensory overload, the very first thing that would hit him hardest isn't anything visual at all. It's smell and sound. A brain shaped entirely by nature is trained to distinguish hundreds of different scents: the smell of rain approaching, the smell of an animal that just passed by, the smell of smoke drifting from a distant fire. For someone whose next meal or next threat depends on reading the air correctly, scent is a survival instrument as important as eyesight. Now drop him into a modern city and he's hit all at once: car exhaust, hot asphalt, perfume, fast food, cleaning chemicals, layered on top of each other non-stop with not a single second of natural smell to reset. And sound is worse. In nature, silence is the default and noise is the exception, and an unusual sound almost always means something might be dangerous. A modern city is the opposite: sound that never stops. Car horns, music leaking from shop doors, people talking loudly into phones seemingly to nobody, the constant hum of air conditioners. To a Stone Age brain, this isn't annoying, it's an alarm bell ringing non-stop for no reason he can identify. His most rational first move probably isn't curious exploration. It's finding a corner, curling up, and trying to process what on earth is happening. Then there's the light itself. For him, night was an absolute law of the universe. When the sun went down, the world went dark, no exceptions, and every living thing organized its existence around that rule. Walk him into a store at what should be the darkest part of the night, and the inside is as bright as noon. This isn't just cool lighting to him, it's a violation of the laws of reality as he understands them. The sun hasn't simply failed to set, it looks like it's been captured and trapped in a box on the ceiling. And it's not only unsettling philosophically, his actual biology would revolt. Constant artificial light suppresses melatonin, confuses the internal clock, and within a day or two would leave him exhausted and disoriented, unable to tell morning from midnight. Modern humans complain about jet lag after 3 time zones. He'd be living something like permanent jet lag from hour 1 without ever leaving the building. Now let's walk him into that grocery store properly, because this is where things get genuinely funny. For a man whose entire life required brutal daily labor, walking dozens of kilometers, risking his life against wild animals just to secure a single day's food, an endless aisle stacked with meat, fruit, and bread, already prepared, requiring no hunting, no digging, just pick it up, is basically the exact image of paradise found in nearly every ancient mythology humans have ever dreamed up. But here's the twist. His hardwired survival instincts would likely scream the opposite conclusion: this is a trap. Why would this much food exist, unguarded, with nobody fighting over it? Throughout human evolutionary history, an abnormally abundant food source appearing with zero effort has almost always signaled danger. So instead of joyfully grabbing everything in sight, his instinct would more likely be extreme alertness, scanning for whatever predator must be lurking behind the shelves. And if he dared take a bite of something sweet. The human body was programmed to crave sugar and fat because in nature they were rare and precious. Every bit you could eat was stored energy for lean seasons. Hand him a chocolate bar, with sugar concentrations dozens of times higher than any berry has ever eaten, and his brain would likely short-circuit with pleasure. There's a real chance he'd become the fastest sugar addict in human history, and honestly, he'd just be catching up to the rest of us embarrassingly quickly. Here's a small but fascinating detail. Prehistoric humans almost never saw their own face clearly. At best, a blurry, rippling reflection on still water. So what happens the first time in his life he stands in front of a modern mirror, sharp down to every last detail? His first reaction probably isn't, "Oh, that's me," it's genuine panic, because as far as his understanding of the world goes, this is another person standing right in front of him, mimicking his every movement with unsettling perfection. This is almost exactly what anthropologists documented among isolated tribes encountering mirrors for the first time in the 20th century. Some laughed uncontrollably, some cried, some tried to physically fight the stranger staring back at them, and some just went quiet and stared, transfixed, as if meeting themselves for the first time was less a curiosity and more a genuinely profound event. Now hand him a phone playing a video of someone talking. For a brain with zero concept of technology, this doesn't just seem strange, it violates every rule he understands about how the world works. In his entire lived experience, a talking face could only belong to a real person standing right there, breathing, casting a shadow. So how can a face talk and laugh while trapped inside a cold, flat slab of stone that fits in a palm? The only explanation his brain can reach for is that this must be a soul, or an extremely powerful form of magic. And whoever holds the power to trap a soul inside a stone like that must be one of the most powerful sorcerers has ever encountered. Here is a fun thought. You, casually scrolling short videos every day without a second thought, might actually look to your own ancestor like a supreme wizard performing high-level sorcery you don't even realize you're capable of. And what happens if the battery dies? To us, a minor annoyance. To him, watching a living, talking face slowly fade into silence, unresponsive no matter how he shakes it, that could easily read as something dying in his hands. The human body and inner ear evolved to process natural movement, walking, running, climbing, falling. An elevator is completely unnatural, standing perfectly still, taking no steps, while the body still feels itself pulled up or pushed down, and the walls never move. Then the doors open and he's on a different floor entirely, no stairs climbed, no hill ascended. For a mind built on cause and effect reasoning honed over a lifetime of tracking and hunting, an elevator is a sealed room that performs actual teleportation. And what about a car doing 100 kilometers an hour? That's a speed no two-legged creature can achieve on its own feet. Even a cheetah only holds that pace for a few seconds before collapsing. For him, rocketing past the landscape without running, without getting tired, would almost certainly trigger extreme fear, the exact same physiological response as being swept away by some invisible giant beast he has no way to fight or escape. But here's something almost nobody thinks about, and it might be the biggest shock of all: the sheer number of strangers. A Stone Age tribe typically numbered somewhere between a few dozen and 150 people, the exact figure behind the famous anthropological idea known as Dunbar's number, the theoretical limit on how many stable relationships a human brain can meaningfully track. For a caveman, every person he ever met in his entire life probably added up to fewer than 1,000 people total. Now put him on a crowded street during rush hour, where thousands of unfamiliar faces stream past in minutes, nobody acknowledging anybody, everyone walking briskly with their eyes locked onto a glowing rectangle in their hands. For someone whose instincts equate stranger with potential threat, this could be more terrifying than any machine has encountered so far. The thing that shakes him most might not be the cars or the phones, it might simply be, why are there so many people, and why does nobody look at each other? And yet, oddly, not everything modern would feel alien to him. Take him into a hospital, and at first the beeping machines and bright lights would overwhelm him just like everything else. But at its core, a hospital is built around something he understands intimately: the fight to keep a body alive. Every tribe had someone who played a version of this role, an elder who knew which plant stopped bleeding, how to set a broken bone, how to sit with the dying and ease their passage. The tools would be unrecognizable, but the purpose, people gathered urgently around someone in pain, trying everything they know to save them, would translate instantly, no explanation required. This might be one of the few places in the whole modern world where he feels a flicker of real understanding rather than pure confusion. We haven't even talked about the most basic problem. He can't understand a single word anyone says, and nobody can understand him. Every instruction, every warning, every kind gesture from a stranger trying to help arrives as pure noise stripped of meaning. And yet linguists who study the origins of human communication point out that certain signals are nearly universal: the wide-eyed look of surprise, the sharp intake of breath signaling danger, an open palm that says, "I mean no harm." There's a real chance that within a day, through nothing but gesture and tone, he could build a rough understanding with at least one patient, kind stranger. Not through words, but through exactly the same toolkit humans relied on long before language existed. After all that chaos, there's one genuinely heartwarming moment, sitting him down as evening falls, letting him smell meat grilling over open flame. This might be the first moment he actually relaxes, because fire, grilled meat, and the smell of smoke are the only things in this entire modern world that are exactly the same as the world he came from. 300,000 years have passed, technology has transformed beyond recognition, but the warmth of a fire and the smell of meat roasting over it have remained almost perfectly unchanged. Watch his shoulders drop, watch the hypervigilance in his eyes finally ease as he leans toward the heat the exact same way every human before him has leaned toward fire since the first spark was tamed. And if a child nearby suddenly bursts out laughing at some joke, that alone might be the thing that makes him, despite everything, smile for the first time all day, because laughter needs no translation and no shared vocabulary. Infants laugh before they can speak a single word. Now let's flip the scenario. What if it were you, with all your knowledge of smartphones, cars, and social media, suddenly dropped 30,000 years into the past, standing alone in a primeval forest with no signal, no obviously clean water, unable to tell which mushrooms are edible, unable to start a fire without a lighter? While you're fumbling in the dirt, unable to find your way without GPS, unable to tell a predator's tracks from ordinary disturbed soil, that backward caveman we've been laughing at this whole time would probably be strolling through that exact same forest as comfortably as you walk through your own living room. Knowledge doesn't evolve along some straight line from dumb to smart. It simply shifts to match whatever environment a person needs to survive in. Prehistoric humans weren't stupid. Biologically, their brains were nearly identical to yours right now. The only real difference is that they were shaped by lived experience to fit their world, and you were shaped to fit yours. So next time you picture a caveman panicking in a supermarket, trying to fistfight his own reflection, or falling to his knees before a phone playing music, don't laugh too hard, too soon. Because if the roles were reversed, there's a very real chance you'd be the one sitting on the forest floor, crying out for Google Maps, with not a single bar of signal anywhere in sight to save you. Maybe civilized and primitive were never as far apart as we like to think. Maybe they're separated by nothing more than a single leap through time and one working lighter.